Howdy doody, ladies and gentsies. It's time for part 2 of daily number 509, where we learn to be a better gamer on optimization. It is week 1 of this Newbie Tuesday series, where we are figuring out how to make our builds as pretty and pristine as possible. Yeah. One thing that I realized I completely forgot to mention in part 1, probably because I was distracted by anything at all. ADD is going fantastically today. Is what the structure of the future weeks will be like. I'm beginning with Terran at the start because Terran tends to be the most straightforward in how production works and a lot of the build order decision making works. We'll also be doing Zerg and Protoss build optimizations. Things will be adjusted a little bit for them, but for the most part, it's pretty straightforward. There's a lot of public myths that are sort of out there that sound catchy to say, but I just don't think are true at all. For instance, calling one race the reactive race. Most often Zerg is called the reactive race. In my opinion, which I actually don't think matters at all here, I think Zerg is far and away more so the active one in a lot of circumstances with some builds, and completely and totally reactive with other builds. The idea of playing StarCraft without reacting to your opponent is actually dumb. Every race is highly reactive, and I bring this up to again hint to some of what's going to be happening down the coming weeks, but also to emphasize that even with this idea of optimizing your build order, you don't need to worry that much about, do I have everything planned out? Am I optimizing in the right way? Because what happens is, as your build gets better and better and better, and you've refined it more and more, you can then step into other builds and refine those and get them better, and then all of a sudden you'll be playing and your opponent will throw a wrench at you and you'll be completely in a new situation. Using these optimization techniques will still give you an incredible intuition for how your race works. In other words, optimizing just one build and trying to make just that one build as amazing as possible will open your eyes to just an intuition of your race. There's many players out there who are mega optimizers. Liquid Noni, excuse me, is one that comes to mind. I had another example that I can't remember. I know I do a hell of a lot of this as well. I'll use my own personal experience because that's pretty reliable. I think I know what I thought pretty reasonably when it happened. That there's many tournaments where I've prepared specific strategies for like 6 months, one strategy, and I prepared against A, B, and C, and then I get there and he does D, and my hands managed to do exactly what needed to be done, and I was like, oh, that was really cool, because it was all the lessons that were learned from these other things. You don't need to be too overly specific in your prep. So let's come back to this specific point where we're at right now. Alright, it appeared there was some static in the audio, but it appears to have fixed itself, and I'm sorry that it happened at all in the first place. So let's step back to where we were to begin with. We looked at this sheet about the refinement process, where we have this loop about the start, about where we get an idea, we wing it, and we record some benchmarks. We did that with our buddy Vega Nova, and we had a benchmarking sheet of times and what things looked like in terms of numbers. We see that the SCV count was slowly going up over time, which is good and also normal. And now we're going to step into this idea of the loop, where we're going to start trying to make our build as amazing as possible. I want to start with the buildings. So let me actually scroll down here to this other thing, the how we want to optimize a build. This is the same thing as this sheet, except it just has more notes in it. Whoa. So in this, the one thing I want to emphasize in the building section is to use your intuition as you're optimizing this. For instance, what I'm going to say right off the bat is, as you're doing your build order, make sure you're constantly making out of all of your buildings. Use your intuition with this. If you clearly don't need any more Hellions or any more medevacs, then don't build them. I don't want you to just be like, well, I did verbatim what you said, Day 9, and didn't use my brain at all, and it didn't work, and that's unfair. StarCraft allows for you to be a human being with a pulse and amazing thought patterns and decisions as an entity. So go ahead and do that. For instance, builds where you do a really fast Hellion drop. You don't need to constantly be producing medevacs. You just don't need to do that. But it's a reasonable statement that if you're going Marine tank in the mid-game, that you want to make sure all your barracks are having Marines and all your factories are having tanks built out of them and all your command centers have SCVs. So again, in all of this, use your intuition. So the first thing in the ORCA method of order, refine, compare, add. For the order, I want you to just get a weak ordering to your buildings. Nothing exact in terms of the timings, which means, there we go. Nothing exact like I will build my factory right at 3 minutes. At 22 supply, I build that refinery. I don't want you to do that first. I want you to make sure you know the order. Let me do a simple build, the one we just saw. First you get your factory, and then we get a command center, and then we get 2 more barracks. Really simple. Could I have done it any different? Absolutely. I could have said factory, and then command center, and then 1 barracks as fast as possible, and then another barracks a little bit later. Slightly different. I'm having 2 barracks earlier in the second example, and 1 barracks early in the first example. Slightly different. Again, just in order. What's something more complicated? I'm going to state a build in terms of an order kind of quickly. I'm Protoss, I early expand, and I'm going to go 4-gate and Twilight. As I take my 3rd base, I take a Robo, and then I'm going to add on 4 more gateways. Okay, cool. That was actually in 3 segments. The 4-gate Twilight, Robo Expo, and then 4 more gateways. Simple as that. Or I could reorder that a little bit. I could say, okay, I'm going to go 4-gate Robo, and then I'm going to go expand Twilight, and then I'm going to go 4 gateways. What did I do there? I swapped the ordering of the robotics facility and the Twilight Council. I wind up with the same thing in every case, but we want to get a loose ordering down, and that's what we're going to start with. And I say get an exact number of buildings. Something like I'm going to go 4-gate, expand, and then 4 more gates. We want to have exact numbers. We don't want to say I want to get Robo and then some gates. That's not so good. And then I want you to play some games and I want you to fiddle with it a little bit. So what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to step in and I'm going to do this step. But first I want to emphasize how these other parts go. What we're going to do is we maybe play 3 to 5 games in single player with this. Maybe play 1 game, maybe play 10 games. Do what works for you. I'm going to be pretty strict and say do it in this order. Order your buildings first and then work on the refinement. But again, if you are a if you're someone who feels like, yeah, I'm picking this up pretty fast, I only need 2 games and to move on, that's great. That's great. Also, in terms of level, I know that there's, you know, for instance, someone like me, I feel like I can keep track of a lot of pretty specific orderings. Not because I'm smarter, but because I played StarCraft for 14 years. So I'm pretty comfortable having like phase 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 of my build, of when the ordering things go. If you're a bronze level player and you think I can only keep track of like 2 things, I'm just going to go 5 gates and expand as phase 1, 5 more gates as phase 2. That's fine. Even if you're a master's level player and you feel like you can only keep track of just that basic stuff, that's fine. What we're going to see is that we're going to do this and we're going to go down to the bottom. We're going to order, refine, compare, and we're going to add more things. And then we're going to feel comfortable and we're going to start over again. And we're going to get a little bit more specific. We're going to refine it a little bit more. So even if you're thinking, oh shit, I can only keep track of 1 or 2 things in my head, don't worry. Soon enough, you'll be able to keep track of tons of things in your head. It actually reminds... Incidentally, I have a deck of cards of poker. I don't know if any of you play poker out here, but the first couple of times I played poker, I would get dealt a hand, and I'd have to check it like 15 times just to remember what the hell the cards were. Like, alright, is there a 10 out there? I think I had a 10. Well, there's a lot of red cards out there. Were my cards red? I would constantly be rechecking, but after playing for a long time, I was like, no problem. After playing a lot, I was like, alright, 10 of hearts, 5 of hearts, and then it would just stick in my head because it had more meaning to me. So don't force it. For whatever level of skill you are, that's perfect. Absolutely perfect. So we have our ordering down. Refine basically means, okay, I've decided what I want to do. I know when I'm going to get stuff. Let me try to do, let me try to make sure I do all the SCV production. Let me make sure that my, I'm not forgetting any depots. Do I like my building placement and my positioning? Maybe I want to do something different then. This is all in the refinement process. Then we start comparing after we've refined it a little bit to be like, oh, am I doing pretty good? Nice. After you've done all that, you'll quickly find, holy crap, I have like an extra 400 minerals left over. Maybe I should do something useful with that. Let's go ahead and do this. I'm going to do this on Cloud Kingdom. Bam. Now, I'm going to note that in terms of this ordering thing, I'm going to intentionally put in a little bit of sloppiness to my play. This is to mirror what it feels like when you're starting a new build. When you're... Oops. Alright, I'm just going to right-click once and let them mine their thing. I'm also going to Alt-F because I like being green. When you start off, it's very easy to be a little bit more on the refined step. It's really easy to be like, alright, I gotta make sure I do all my SCVs and nail it perfectly. Don't do that. Just order the build first. So, I'm going to be saying, I'm going to go for my factory, and then my command center, and then I'm going to wait a little bit until I can build both my barracks at the same time, and then I'm going to go ahead and do that. I'm not going to do it in this staggered fashion. I'm building my first depot here. Do I like that placement? Do I not like that placement? Not even going to answer that question at all here. Are my SCVs perfectly optimized? Not even going to try to answer that now or to try to fix that. I'm just working on building order. Oh yeah, maybe I wanted to wall off, Sean said in a totally not contrived fashion.
Go ahead.
No big deal. Let's go ahead and do that.
Not enough minerals.
Building me some SCVs. And I got my barracks here. I'm going to rally it there. And one thing you're going to see out of me is that I'm really not a super stickler about doing things with my units. Because again, I'm focusing on the buildings phase right now. Oops. Actually, Alt-Tab to go ahead and see my my lovely little chat window where you lovely folk are hanging out and chatting. And oops, misclick, no big deal. Oh no, I should probably cancel that so that way I can get this up. And I know that I need a supply depot now, but I'm going to pretend to forget it. Send that guy back to mining. Wow, there's a hell of a long time before you actually need that depot.
Coming through.
So what I'm doing right now is I'm trying to mimic what it would probably be like when you're testing a build order out for the first time. Doing things like forgetting supply depots, overbuilding marines,
Additional supply
or things like this. And it's fine when you're doing this ordering phase to notice stuff like, oh my god, wait, I don't want to have a marine right there. I want to be building a reactor. Oh wait, I have an idle worker. Okay, send that guy back. Totally fine. Okay, I know my next step is that I want to be getting a command center. So I'm going to send this guy down here. I'm gonna make SCVs as often as I remember them. Whoops. I gotta do this. Gotta send this guy back. Again, I'm intentionally making this really sloppy. Hellions, yeah. I'm gonna rally them here, because I don't want to be doing too much micromanagement in this game. I want to instead be focusing on the build order. So here's something that cropped up that happens to a lot of players when they're not used to Hellion builds. They forget the 27 of 27 supply thing. And right when they're getting ready to make their extra Hellions, they think to themselves, oh crap, I have to get the depot up. Okay, so there it is. And then these sorts of things happen where it's like, well, I'll just build my barracks. Because I can afford it, and I'm just going to get my stim because I can afford it. And then, okay, let me build a Marauder because I can afford it. Alright, I need to make SCVs. Cool. Now, I actually am going to pause. What are we seeing me do right now? The ordering phase, where I'm just feeling out an order, seeing if it feels pretty good. Bumps are happening all over the place. I forgot my depot. I've set my money up so that in a second, when my command center finishes, I am going to be not having quite enough money to build an orbital command. So let me show this moment coming up. So, okay, cool. I'm going to build both my Hellions. Oh no. B. Alright, orbital command. Alright, I need another Marauder. Sending him down there. Let me re-rally this. Build another Marauder. Building some SCVs and stuff. Oh, see, and this is something that happens very commonly with builds. Right here.
Game paused.
You feel behind. I'm just able to build my Hellions. And my barracks. Oh no! These two barracks just finished up here. I don't have enough money to do anything with them. Maybe get my add-ons right there. But am I even making out of this one? I am, but I'm not building SCVs out of either of my things. Oh no! Things feel really bad. Oh my god, and I even forgot an a supply depot. I'm going to emphasize, actually I'll score screen and reload the replay. That feeling I want to emphasize so much, that is normal as hell when you are getting this ordering phase down. You feel like you just can't do anything. You feel like, I don't have enough money to get the SCVs, I got my barracks out and I can't do anything with them. You feel tight on cash in a number of ways. That is extremely, extremely normal. And the way that we're going to fix that is we are going to step into this refinement phase where I'm going to emphasize that you do maximum SCV production, maximum unit production, and before you ever consider making any units, you make sure, or excuse me, before you even consider making any more buildings, you make sure that those units are still coming out. I'm going to step into another game right now where we're going to see me refining this game, and then we're going to step into the benchmarking phase. It'll be a little bit longer of a part 2, but that's okay because this is important, damn it. The game is now starting. Stop my game. Come on. Alright, cool. It's now getting started up. Score screen. Okay, so what I'm going to be doing now is a little bit more of a refined version of what I did in the ordering. And there are things I said in that ordering process that I'm going to start to take note of as I refine it. I will note that these, once you get your ordering down and you're like, yeah, I kind of like that. Even though it was bumpy, I kind of liked that I had enough of the units I wanted. In the refinement phase, it'll be sort of a slow, blurry end of this and start to this. In other words, there's not like a really clean define like derp. Now I am refining. It's very clear that I am refining at this point in time. For instance, in my ordering phase, I said, man, I missed that 27 of 27 supply mark. So I'm going to try to refine to make those problems go away. That's what your refinement phase is. Finding those building type problems and making them go away.
Additional supply depot.
Here's something that I actually have a bad habit of doing. And I can credit it to the fact that I played Zerg in StarCraft 1. When you build a building with Zerg, it goes away.
Not enough minerals.
So I have a really bad habit of telling things to build and forgetting to shift, click, send them back. But
Not enough minerals.
in this game, as I'm playing my build order more, I'm getting the opportunity in this refinement phase to figure out how to avoid that a little bit more. So I'm still not going to worry about units. I built my refinery a little bit earlier this game. And I'm going to talk about the things that I was aware of in playing. Like right now, after doing my build, I'm actually just looking over at the timing of my Day 9 Daily. Segment 2, for instance, has been going on for about 20 minutes right now. The amount of time it took for me to do Game 2, like what you're looking at right now,
Not enough minerals.
and Game 1,
Not enough minerals.
is like 7 minutes. You can do this for like 20 minutes and get 3 or 4 games in really, really fast. One thing I'm noticing, the guy that builds the barracks is an extremely useful SCV to instantly build my next supply depot. Why the hell not? And this SCV that builds the supply depot is an extremely excellent candidate for building my factory. I noticed that I can go SCV build depot, and barracks, and depot, and factory. I'm starting to make one SCV do all those. It's starting to get a little bit smoothed out. I'm now going to move my barracks over.
Armed and ready.
I've started to get my timing down quite nicely on this reactor. I'm getting quite aware of that 27 supply mark. I'm even going to hotkey this as F3. Like that. One thing that I'll note is that as you get better in your build, you have more time on your brain. Your brain's not thinking that much. And that's how you will start remembering things like these screen hotkey type things. So see that SCV that didn't perfectly go back there? I'm a little tilted, but I'm not going to start crying about it so much. So I'm going to build these guys and immediately build this other thing. And I'm thinking, yeah. Alright, I nailed it. I got my depot started about in time. No, it wasn't quite on time, but I'm getting closer. I'll have to build it before that factory next time. But it's a hell of a lot closer.
Additional supply depots.
A hell of a lot. Look, I just got the additional supply depots required, and there's my depot finishing up right now. I'm going to build myself another depot. This is the moment I want to freeze at right now. It's extremely easy in a situation like this to do what we did in Game 1. To just go, oh, I have about enough to build a barracks, and boom, build a barracks. How are we avoiding that mistake? Maximum SCV production. And I'll even throw in here, make sure units are being made. So I'll actually turn this off. So these, at this moment, I'm realizing, okay, so here's my Hellions being produced. Well, God, if I produce another 2 of these, and my orbital command finishes, that's all my money right there, and that's about to happen. So let me wait just a smidge. EE, S, and this is going to finish. And I'm going to instantly B barracks. Or excuse me, orbital command. So nice. Now some of you astute folk out there might be noticing that my second orbital command, or my second command center finished to unsupply block me, so I didn't necessarily need to make that depot. That's all part of the refinement phase. So you're starting to notice that, like that comment that I just made about the, oh, huh, I guess I didn't really need to build that depot. Just sort of climbed up in this refinement phase. I wasn't trying to force it too early on.
Game resumed.
And I'm starting to realize that it's time for me to get my barracks out. And this is the other part where intuition comes into play. I really don't need more than 6 Hellions for the time being.
Complete.
I truly, genuinely don't.
Add-on complete.
Like, I've played enough games to know this on my own.
SCV ready.
And now that a little time has passed, now I can go back to that production.
Brand new.
6 Hellions do about the same as 8 Hellions do for early pressure. And maybe after I've played a whole bunch of games, I can start to say to myself, wow, it's really useful to get 12 in the attack, but not any earlier than that. So here I'm going to get my tech labs up.
SCV ready.
Starting to be more aware about my needs.
Additional-
See how these are getting nicely lined up there. I'm trying not to miss SCVs. Starting to get my Marauders produced.
Add-on complete.
I will
Additional
note that
supply depots
personally,
required.
I felt like these barracks might have been a little bit late.
SCV ready.
I was a little worried about that these barracks were a little bit behind.
Additional supply depots required.
But I'm starting to see that I'm not missing any SCVs. I just am
Additional
starting to get
supply
supply
depots
blocked, which
required.
is obviously quite bad.
Talk to me, boss.
But I'm going to keep playing until when? Until that 9:30 mark. So let me rally these
Ready to
duders
raise
up.
some hell.
1, 2, 3.
SCV ready.
1, 2. SCVs getting ready.
What's going
Alright,
on?
cool. I'm going to burrow these. I'm going to add on some more.
Ready to raise some hell.
And I'm just making sure that everything's building. 1, 2, 3, because they're about to finish. 1, 2. Keeping my money reasonably low. And when do I move out for the attack?
Additional supply depots required.
At 9:30, when our good friend Vega Nova did in the last circumstance.
Additional supply depots. Research complete.
And then I'm going to be score screening it out. Alright, that might have seemed... I think that most people felt that that was noticeably better. Yeah, people... The Orca method, yeah. Why was that useful that I did that? For one, it made me feel good as a person to have all my stuff lined up. Yeah. This is what we want to do now in our Orca method, is we want to compare. How are we doing? We got an order to things, we refined the things, and now we're going to compare to how we were doing. And in particular, I want to bring back this benchmarking sheet. I'm going to write down all these times that I had before. This is where Excel or Google spreadsheets comes in really useful. I didn't go to 11 minutes in the interest of time, but I'm going to speed things up a bit.
SCV ready.
Additional
Can you Control N and I open up an overlay of me versus nobody? Okay, what did I say at 2:30? 2:30, refinery starts. Hey, look at this. Refinery done at this point, and I have 14 SCVs.
Ready.
Alright, nice. Okay, let's start looking around.
Go, go, go.
upgrade complete.
SCV ready.
And here's another benchmark I can do.
SCV ready.
One of the reasons I write down the description is that the description allows me to compare over time. Like, for instance, my expansion started at around 4:30. So I can actually go, hey, 4:30, Expo starts. 18 SCV 2 Marine. So nice. I can definitively say my expansion is 30 seconds earlier. In your refinement phase, you should be going for faster.
Add-on.
Hellions beginning at 4:45. Oh my god, we got him a minute earlier than we did in our last one. Hellions start. We have 19 SCVs and 2 Marines. Wonderful.
SCV ready.
What was the next benchmark I had? 6:30 is when the second barracks is
Additional
done.
SCV ready.
Okay, so 6:30, my other 2 barracks, 6:30, second, third racks start. So this kind of makes me feel a little bit like, maybe there's something that needs to be adjusted. Again, it's just a benchmark. And when I come to the unit tab, I can say, okay, 24 SCV. I'm still doing fine on my SCV count. I have 2 Marines, but this time I have 5 Hellions. Actually, I think I almost have 6. Yeah, I'll go ahead and list 6 Hellions since that guy's just like inches from popping out. But yeah, so I can say, okay, here I'm a little bit late on my barracks, but man, I sure as hell am way earlier on those Hellions. Nice. 8:15 was just a random moment. So let's go ahead and speed up to there and see how we're doing. And alright, we just hit 8:15. Huh, this is... Oh, sorry, I looked at the wrong time. Okay, so random moment. 34 SCVs. Okay, we're being better about our SCV production. 2 Marauder, 2 Marine, 10 Hellion. So, when I also compare it to... Oh, here, I'm also going to list these buildings. So I had 1 Rax, 1 Fac, 1 Tech, 1 React. And likewise, I list these off. I had 3 Rax, 3 Tech, 3 Rax, 1 Fac, 3 Tech, 1 Reactor. Alright, cool. And then I'm going to be briefly zooming ahead to 9:30, but still note that when I compare this to this, I'm doing better. My SCV production's higher. I have twice as many Hellions. I don't quite have as many Marines, but I'm happy to have 2 Marauders. 2 Marauders and 2 Marines versus 5 Marines. I have strictly more army here. And this, I actually want to say, is one of the most important parts of this entire segment. Why is that? At 6:30 in our original test, we had our second Rax finished. At 6:30 in our refinement, we had just started our other 2. Ugh, that seems terrible, doesn't it? Well, not when you go to 8:15. At 8:15, we had 5 units from the barracks. And at 8:15 now, we have 4 units from the barracks. But twice as many Hellions as before. We can clearly see that this delay of barracks is not affecting us as much as we might think. And last but not least, I'm going to go to the 9:30 mark where we move out for our fancy schmancy attack with our stim being done. Okay, stim packs wrapping up in the unit station. How are we doing? Attack begins. We have 40 SCVs, 3 more than before. We have 2 Marines. We have, what is that, 8 Marauders? And we have 13 Hellions. And we're feeling very good about this in comparison to that. We have a lot less Marines. We have a lot more Marauders, a lot more Hellions. Cool. Now, I want to be doing the ad portion, but I have to go to part 3. So we're going to go to part 3, and when we come back, we're going to explore this notion of what do we do in terms of adding. We're going to do another round of refinement and adding in there, and we're even going to think about our units a little bit. So when we come back, we'll do that. Yeah! Yeah! Be back in just a sec.